Welcome to This Week in the SFL Season 21, Week 13 edition, along with Mike O'Neill. I'm Cameron Irvine. Welcome back to the program, Mike. Looking sharp.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Excited. I want to give, again, a huge shout out to Stephen Hacker, who was just awesome. Awesome in my absence, for sure.
It was a great Week 13. We have 1 week left in the regular season. We're here to break down all of what happened and all of what is to come this upcoming weekend. I love this time of year, Mike, because it feels like the games are so important, and it's almost like the game knows it somehow. It ups its game for sure.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of close football this weekend, and I couldn't ask for more. I mean, we had some good matchups this weekend.
The Week 13 headlines included Arizona finally winning the West. Sorry, Mike. The Gorillas returned with a bang, and Houston runs roughshod over Tulsa. But first, we go to L.A., where the Fort Worth Toros unbeaten. Look, Mike, Fort Worth highlights. Look at that. Marcus Dunhill to Robert Garrett Jr. for the touchdown. 7-0 Toros on top early. Flash forward to the end of the first half, 7-6. And Marcus Dunhill, off the leg of Garrett Hudson. Are you kidding me? What an interception right off the quad.
Yeah, LA's game plan coming out here was really, really strong against Fort Worth. I mean, really disrupting the passing lanes. They did a great job.
Here's another look at it. Off the tip and then off the side of the hip. And then Garrett Hudson pulls it in. That was a great look. Thanks, 2K. 7-6 right after that interception. And Logan Jack. Hey, how about that? Logan Jack touchdown. Los Angeles leads Fort Worth, trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. The fans love it. Ooh, chest bump. 13-7 Los Angeles, but Marcus Dunhill not done, comes right back. Robert Garrett Jr. just before the half. The Toros respond and go up 14-13, but LA's not done. 30 seconds left, 3 timeouts. Sully gonna roll out. Sully all kinds of time. Right over the top of the defense. Logan Jack out of the backfield. Clever play there from LA. 2 plays later, Sully trying to get him into field goal range. Deep drop back right over the outstretched arms of a defender. And that would get LA into field goal range, and they would take a 16-14 lead. Touchdown, Iniguez, after a Fort Worth field goal, makes it 23-17 LA. Back and forth we go late in the third. Same score. Marcus Dunhill claps right back. Touchdown, Cade Stevens, 24-23 Toros. And Fort Worth keeping that undefeated season alive. 3:16 to go. Sully Richardson, Mike, had not thrown a pick in 23 quarters. 23 quarters. Don't force it. No. Delaney Nash. No. Somebody get him down. Oh, Delaney. Oh, the humanity. Nash with the pick 6, and Fort Worth puts it away.
Yeah, you know what's crazy is that I was watching this game live, and they just really did a good job. Fort Worth, they were sniffing out what LA was trying to do. You see it there again, too. They were trying to force that receiver on the outside, and, yeah, Fort Worth closed in, and they did what good teams do.
It wasn't Jay-Z Bacon's human highlight reel type of game, but he punches it in and sends LA back home. 38-23, LA eliminated from the playoffs, and the Fort Worth Toros, Mike, show a lot of guts and a lot of grit coming back in this one. They outscore LA 14-0 in the fourth quarter, and in the red zone, 4 touchdowns on 4 attempts, just 1 touchdown on 3 trips for LA. Sometimes that's just the difference.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, but hey, shout out to LA, because I remember watching that game and being like, this is the team. Like that LA looked like a playoff team. That LA looked like a team that could come into next season. All it is just building blocks, right? You've got an entire offseason now. Yeah, your season may be over this season, but season 22, look out, because if LA comes out week 1 looking like that LA, well, yeah, I think the Pacific is, got another problem.
LA's one of those teams, Mike, that when you look at who's been eliminated from the playoffs, you think that's not a bad team. That's just a team that lost a couple of close games down, at some point during the season. Could have flipped their way. They could be 6-5 right now. It's not a team that's searching for a lot of answers. It feels like it's a team that is just waiting for their next opportunity.
Right.
But we'll see LA next season, see if they can bounce back. Fort Worth, meanwhile, is 11-0. They continue their run. They got tested. They got knocked down. They got back up, Mike, and it's just week after week. It's just impressive what they are able to do, especially defensively.
The resiliency of Fort Worth is unbelievable. Same thing. You could say the same thing. Make the same case with Alamo City. Those two teams at the top. I mean, Fort Worth, though, is just done incredible, and Marcus Dunhill continues to play lights out. And it's going to be it's a hot team rolling into, and I just can't wait for next week's matchup. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah. How about the other half of that matchup? Alamo City. They were playing with their food a little bit with Sioux Falls through the first 3 quarters, but then they took it to them and won 45-19. They were 14-0 in the first, 14-3 in the fourth. Great teams start and close out games. Mike, Sioux Falls just has no run game. 28 yards rushing. I mean, they just have not been able to establish Thrilliums at all this season. That's really been a thorn in their side.
That's been the big thing, like we know Julian Tyree can pass the ball, obviously, he's got his woes with the interception. They got to, limit the turnovers. But look, the run game's got to go somewhere. That's Sioux Falls' number one goal this offseason. They've got to figure out how to get a run game. You can't win in this league without a run game. That's just how it goes.
Well, they got to. I would say their first priority is they got to retain their roster, because they're one of those teams that has had trouble with that in the past, and with rosters continuing to grow, it's the talent's just not going to be there. So good luck to them in trying to rebuild and try and dig themselves out of this 3-8 hole. But to Alamo City and Fort Worth, that's next week's Monday Night Spectacular, and we get an early look at it. Remember, Mike, Fort Worth's never beaten this team. It's crazy, but they're 0-8 against Alamo City. And there's a lot of interesting stats here. Of course, the run defenses for both teams are ridiculous. The pass defense for Alamo City is lacking. They give up a lot of yards through the air. That's been a problem for them. But these teams don't turn the ball over. I mean, Fort Worth, 7 turnovers in 11 games in the SFL. Are you kidding me? Both red zone defenses are great. So I mean, really, it's the only weakness for Alamo City is beating them over the top and hitting them on quick drives. Fort Worth, not really sure exactly where their weakness lies, but just an early preview of this one. How do you see this shaping up? Because it has lived up to the hype up to this point.
And indeed, it really has lived up to the hype. I mean, like you said, the only blemish on here is Alamo City's pass defense. And look, that could really be skewed based off of what teams run against them. So we don't really know. I mean, I wouldn't call it necessarily. You can't be 11-1 and have too much of a, glaring hole.
True.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't trust that 27 too much. But I will say this: Fort Worth, on tape, there are some things that Alamo City and Fort Worth have on each other that they like to really, really do. I mean, there's some really, really big tendencies from both of these teams. I just can't wait to see what the coaches do and put together. Number one for Alamo City's got to be shutting down Jay-Z Bacon. And for the flip side for Fort Worth, I mean, shut down the run game first, then, see how it goes with both teams having to pass instead of run, because both of these teams rely on the run game to get going for sure.
And you'll be breaking that down more next week on the Monday Night Spectacular. Tonight is Portland and Vancouver, as those two teams are desperate to stay in the playoff hunt. All right, so Alamo City and Fort Worth now have a very busy week to try and out-scheme and outsmart themselves, and hopefully, outsmart their opponent. Hopefully they do not outsmart themselves. Okay,
which is very possible.
Very, very possible. Back to the highlights. This one got nuts. Indy, Vegas. Maybe the best game of the year. And we start with Vegas with the football, and Eric Price, what is that called? What's that called again, Mike? A pass? Is that a pass? A Vegas pass?
Just like, what is that?
Look, back-to-back Eric Price, touchdown. Hey, how about the Mason Kirby? Touchdown, Vegas. Holy crap. Now, this may be Eric Price's best throw of his career. Dime! Oh, my goodness. Filthy over Ernest McCray Sr. He may get the last laugh in this one, not sure. But 17-0. Fury on top early. Kind of a shocker. They were 10.5-point favorites, which was surprising in its own right. But Indy would bounce back as Christian Pierce gets the ground game going. Gets him inside the 15-yard line and into scoring position. Then on 3rd down and 1.5, it would be Christian Pierce sealing the deal, getting into the end zone, and finally Indy's on the board with some momentum. So 17-7, Vegas is driving before the end of the first half. 23 seconds left, and Eric Price just has to throw it to Ernest McCray Sr. Ha-ha! All the way to the end zone. 100 yards, Mike.
Wow, that is unbelievable. I mean, Indianapolis did a really good job adjusting after that first quarter, the pass-heavy first quarter of Las Vegas, so kudos. Ernest McCray Sr. really just capitalizing on an opportunity.
And he points to his fans in the stands. How about the start of the second half kickoff? Jay Viper on the return. Fumble! And Vegas scoops it up and recovers it. That's Alice Itera with the fumble recovery, and Vegas gets all the momentum back just like that.
I bet you could really say the Iteras were a crippling family to this Indianapolis organization.
24-14, Eric Price picked Ernest McCray Sr. with the interception, and Indy climbs right back in it. Colin Pierce, Jeff Banfield over the middle. Wyo gets a face full of black paint there. 24-21, end of the third quarter. And Eric Price has the football back in Las Vegas territory. This game getting spicy now. Nearly sacked. Hit as he threw. And Ernest McCray Sr. gets his 3rd interception of the day. Credit Telemax Scarborough and the rest of that Rambler pressure. Now Colin Pierce fighting back. Oh, he gives it right back. Are you kidding me? Maurice Lloyd takes it all the way down the sideline, and Lloyd racing the big hog mollies. Chad Rowland is so slow. 4:14 to go in the fourth, and Vegas is back in business. Now 2nd down and goal. They flip it out to Hubba, who breaks a tackle, and Hubba does what Hubba does. Touchdown,
You gotta
Vegas.
make that tackle.
You gotta make that tackle, and we've seen people make that tackle. 31-24, Vegas up 7 until Indy climbs right back in it. Ryan Roosevelt with the catch, his 6th of the day, and I still don't know how Jay Viper made this catch. Colin Pierce, corner pocket. Are you kidding? Through everybody. Tie game. Jay Viper with the miraculous catch. So 31-31 now. 90 seconds to go. And Hubba Kimbrell can't get off the field. Kimbrell gets him into scoring position. Down inside the 20-yard line, shoved out of bounds. And Indianapolis is reeling now. The game winner for Vegas. Woo! That was close. That's a Matt Rage special, 34-31. Las Vegas clinging to a 3-point lead with 28 seconds left. Indy is like 5 yards out of field goal range. Pick Merrick Itera with the interception and the sealer. And Vegas wins 34-31 to Minnesota, where the legend hosted the Arizona Scorpions, and Colin Hart from the get-go. Feeling those Color Rush unis. Touchdown, Minnesota. They go up 7-0, and Sean Moore gets hurt. We're thinking, oh boy, this could get interesting. Next drive, Ashley Jackson, no problem. One-on-one coverage, 0 coverage as Ramos called it out. Hands TD.
Yeah, I mean, Hands really just doing a great job utilizing that one-on-one matchup there. You saw no safety over the top. Good job by Ashley Jackson, Eddie Gage to recognize that cover 0.
Jackson to Will Todd on the next possession. Touchdown. Are you keeping score at home, folks? That's Hands. Now Todd. 14-7 Arizona, now 14-10. Jackson on 3rd and 5. With her legs. Slides down and makes 3 different Sasquatches crash into each other as she picks up the first down. Hands goes in motion. Following the run. Toss to Moses. And Moses gets really his only big run of the day, Mike. It's all about it's personnel matchups. It matters. 377 yards, 8 touchdowns last week, less than 100 yards this week, but it doesn't matter because Arizona has Ashley Jackson hitting. Are you keeping track at home? Justin Williams now for a touchdown. 3rd and goal. Ashley Jackson to TJ Punk. 4 different players catch passing touchdowns from Ashley Jackson in the first half, but the second half was a different story. 4th and 1. Minnesota goes for it down 18. They needed it. It kept a very lengthy drive alive. And in this second half, Mike, this Minnesota team was just impressive, taking advantage of all the mismatches. Look at France. No challenge there.
Yeah, when you got a tight end like France matched up on a linebacker, I mean, that's money all day.
Now Reno goes to Powell, and Powell, too strong, gets off the rookie and scores. 28-17, Minnesota right back in this thing. Now, on 3rd down, Reno all the way across the field, almost overthrew Vincalia. No one was on him, but the drive ended in just a field goal. Disappointing drive for the Legend. They really wanted a touchdown there. Now their defense would have to go out on the field and get a stop with 6:06 to go. And, Mike, if you can believe this, they never got the ball back. 3rd down and 4. 5 minutes later, Arizona giving it to Justin Williams this whole drive, making things happen when DJ Moses couldn't, and right past the sticks. Williams gets the first down, and that's how the West was won. Mike, 28-20, Arizona gets the victory. And, I mean, we saw Vegas win, but we saw Arizona win too. What stood out to you more in Week 13?
It's got to be, listen, it's got to be Arizona. And the reason I say this, like, kudos to Vegas. That was a great game. Vegas to Indianapolis was a great game. A little more turnovers than I would like to see, which is funny. I was laughing to myself because I was like, man, we're sitting here calling this like debatably the best game of the week, and there were so many turnovers.
10.
Last season, we wouldn't be talking about. If there was a game with 10 turnovers, we would have just turned it off. This season's a different story. So kudos to Las Vegas, but Arizona. The big thing I want to emphasize is the fact that Minnesota is they've been on a pretty rough losing streak, and we know that's a good organization, and we know that they've got good coaching. So there's a lot brewing over there in that Minnesota organization, and for Arizona to continue the winning, especially against a team like that, whenever a team that was desperate for a win, Arizona just proves that they're worthy of that West title, as much as it pains me to say.
2 turnovers for Arizona. Minnesota did not get anything off those turnovers. That was key. Also, too, what we've been seeing this season, 3rd down offense is just ahead of 3rd down defense right now. And some teams have it figured out. Some teams do not. And for some teams, it's crippling them. I mean, Arizona 10 for 12 on 3rd. If you can't get off the field, you're never going to win.
No, your defense gets gassed. Everybody's fatigue's down. You can't do anything. I mean, it creates a lot more opportunities for blown coverages and stuff like that. Fatigue plays a factor in all that. I mean, kudos. Arizona really just crafted a great win. So
far we've seen Sioux Falls lose, Minnesota lose, Indy lose. Tulsa's coming up later in the show, but a rough week for the Central. They're still in it, Mike. They're still here's what's going. Here's the clinch scenarios for the Central. Okay, here we got them. Indianapolis is in with a win. That's all they got to do. They just have to beat Sioux Falls on the road. Now, if you can't do that, I would argue, Mike, you don't deserve to be in the playoffs, right? So Indianapolis has to win the game. Yeah. Now, if Indy loses, the winner of Minnesota-Tulsa wins the division. That game is in Tulsa. Tulsa had a bad loss this week, but it's one loss. You throw it out the window, and you come back the next week swinging. Minnesota-Tulsa is going to be a really interesting game, but it is possible that a 4-8 Minnesota team could win the division and play the 5 seed in the first round of the playoffs. They'll be seeded 12th. Otherwise, Tulsa or Indy would be 5-7, and that would be your Central Division winner. Mike, any predictions? How is this going to play out? I mean, if you think Indy's going to beat Sioux Falls, then it's over.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. This is what's crazy. I mean, it's hard to make predictions whenever every team's sitting at the same level right now, essentially. So, but the crazy thing to me, though, obviously, yes, if Indianapolis win and in, right, But with Minnesota, the hard part about this is you don't know what Minnesota and what Tulsa team you're going to get. We've seen both teams be really, really good in weeks and both teams be really bad
Tulsa
in weeks. So
especially.
you have no idea.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So, I mean, Indianapolis, when all said and done, I think Indianapolis will get the win in Sioux Falls. But look, this is the SFL. I mean, anything could happen. If Sioux Falls could miraculously come out and have the best rush game of, the season and put up 200 on the ground against Indianapolis, and then now there's a wrench thrown and everything. And the Central is just a division that keeps on lack of season.
Back to Bragg in the chat says, remember when the Central almost got all their teams in last year? Yeah. And that's why you can't. I mean, that's why divisions matter, right? Some seasons a division is really good. Some seasons they're not. This is an especially bad season for the Central, but all these teams have talent. And Joshua Durr was saying no idea what each Central team needs to get the win, and that's why you come to this show, because we got you covered. We got the hookup. So that's
your
what's
weekly
going,
fix.
That's what's going on in the Central. A bit of a mess, but it's a fun car wreck to watch pile up. Okay, back to the highlights. Things got wild in D.C. last night. The D.C. Dragons hosting the Canton Classics, and it wasn't Robert Johnson who stole the show. It was Kevin Say. Whoop! Whoa! Wow! Whoa! There's a hole left in the turf there. Kevin Say, touchdown to start the game. Makes it 7-3, and then Lauren Percoco on National Tight Ends Day. Oh, yes! Leads the league in receiving touchdowns, and D.C. goes up 17-6 with 51 seconds to go before the half. But if you can believe it, Canton gets something going in that 51 seconds. This was pretty nuts. Both D.C. defensive backs go for the pick here, and everyone takes themselves out of the play, and Jack Wall, like a bowling ball, gets through all the pins and scores. 17-13 at the end of the half, and then the end of the third quarter, they take the lead. What a play call there, Mike.
Love that. Yeah. Yep, love that. Inside coverage, one-on-one. You got your man on an island up top. Take the inside coverage, put him on a slant, and throw it towards the inside, towards the seam where no safety is. That's a beautiful play call.
That's why you don't put all run plays in a formation, because you really could use a pass every once in a while out of stuff like that. That was Xavier Rue III who made that stop. He was in all night for an injured Darrell Bullock, and he was awesome. Did his best on the outside against these talented Canton receivers who have been underutilized at times this year, but they are heating up the last couple of weeks. Al Dillapre Sr. with another 100-yard game, and then Canton, same formation, but this time they bring Al Dillapre Sr. inside. They run away from it, and look at that. DC gets the stop. John DeSantis forces a field goal to keep it a one-score game with 6 minutes to go. This game was far from over as Kevin Say started to take over. Look at Josh Gill.
Block.
Josh Gill, the last block there, and DC takes the lead with 4:18 to go.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, DC's offense was just humming. Kevin Say was killing it.
How about another? Kevin Say breaks off a tackle, and there's nobody there. Did you see the blocker? He's like, I don't know. Am I supposed to go get a fan or something? I don't know what to do here. 31-23, DC is taken over at this point. Kevin Say, a banner day as DC wearing kind of a throwback on this night and looked real nice. Canton now down 8, facing pressure, 4th and 10. Ryan Owens with the one-hander, then Scar Patterson under a minute to go. Oh, yeah, Ryan Owens, are you kidding me? Touchdown. So Canton now down 2 is going to go for 2? What's the trick in this bag? They're definitely going to fake it. And then, pump fake, throw it. Throw the ball.
Fake?
Throw the ball. They didn't throw the ball, and DC wins the game 31-29. Wow, what a season for the Dragons. Canton would have one more opportunity on the onside kick, but it would be recovered by DC, and the ball game would be over. So can we recap just for a second DC's season? They had the 4th and 1 conversion against Baltimore, where on the next play they threw an interception. Then they had the game against Florida, where they didn't have any timeouts left and the clock ran out on them for a potential field goal as time expired. And then this game, where it looked like Canton may tie it up, send it into overtime. And look, if that fake extra point works. Everybody's singing the praises of the coaching staff. It didn't work, and so Canton falls to 7-5, and DC finally gets some karma to come back around. They're now 6-5. Take on 6-5 Charleston next week. But what a game,
dude! Yeah, okay, but yeah, just two things that stood out to me in this game. For one, DC is so much better than their record, like so much better than their record shows, like you were just nailing in. Kevin Say, we've been waiting for a performance like that. Kevin Say delivered last night. But, I mean, while as great as DC was, Scar Patterson was sensational last night. Like, Scar Patterson was making throws that very, very few quarterbacks in the SFL can make last night. And, look, the Ryan Owens, I love the Ryan Owens because in that drive, that fourth quarter drive, Ryan Owens was the target every single play. And you know what I realized it was? Is Daryl Bullock was back in after being injured. And Scar was saying, okay, I'm going. My guy against your guy who just came back in.
Right.
You know what I mean? And Ryan Owens is the one that gets the 4th and 10 conversion and gets the touchdown. I mean, the play calling was beautiful. Yeah, you can say what you want about the extra point fake, but you know what? That is the game of football. That is the coin flip. Again, like you said, if they would have converted on that, everybody would have said genius. But if not, everybody's saying what's going on. Kudos to both teams. It was a great, great game. And, man, DC, I think, really just showing a lot of people what they are.
Those are the hardest things to practice, right, Mike? Trick plays, because they come up randomly, right? But everybody's got them, and everybody's got to execute them. Mike, if I was a coach, I would go into practice and select the play and see how my team executes it. And, hey, sometimes in the biggest of moments, it could come up, and you want your team to be ready. So that was pretty interesting.
Yep.
Considering we're in our first season, of the new era, it's probably not on everyone's forefront of mind to be working on those.
Well, we've seen a team win off of one this season. So
Carolina, Carolina, absolutely. Speaking of Carolina, let's get to some of the blowouts this week. Charleston hammers the Skyhawks. The Corbin Cup is all Charleston right now, 38-16, 13 of 16 on third downs. And what's crazy to me, Mike, how does Charleston have 10 more minutes of time of possession when their average field position was their own 41? How does that happen? Right? They only had 60 yards of field to go every time, and they still had the ball for 25 minutes. Carolina's they're in a slump right now. It's hard to imagine that they're going to beat Baltimore a second time next week, but it's a game of matchups. You never know.
It is. It's a week-by-week thing. Whatever coach utilizes the matchups, the best, because every team's got them. Every team's got mismatches somewhere. It's just about finding them.
So let's look at Charleston and Carolina. Again, Charleston and D.C. play next Friday night. That's going to be a huge game. I don't know what it is about Louisiana's offense, but Jacksonville can't stop them. They gave up 51 the first time, 66 this time. This game was crazy, Mike. Okay, it was nuts. 66 points for Louisiana, 555 yards of offense for Louisiana, and Chris Grant Jr., number 44, had his best game of the season. What's going on with the numbers there? It's like the eclipse. Everything's aligning for Louisiana in that one.
If I may,
yes.
This is we talk about mismatches, right? Jacksonville is the defense that values and prioritizes speed over strength all across the board, right? We knew they came into this season without linebackers, essentially moving defensive backs into their linebackers. Louisiana, across the board, is a very hefty size-wise, like a very hefty team across the board. They've got two stout running backs with good size. All their receivers are bigger bodied. They've got tight ends. They've got, you know what I mean? Their offense size is a complete mismatch for a Jacksonville team that prioritizes speed over size.
And that's what we've seen, despite Jacksonville, 616 yards of their own. It's kind of a mismatch the other way, right, Mike? I mean, Jacksonville really gives Louisiana's defense problems where it does not give others. Shout out to Kingston Ellington, another 200-yard performance for him. He's having a great season. This game was a mess, 7 penalties, 38 points in the fourth quarter. It was almost 2 hours without any commercials and any overtime at all. It was wild, but Jacksonville comes out on the losing end there, and Louisiana picks up a huge win. That puts them at 6-5. But as we'll see later on in the program, the Revolution are back in a position where they need some help now, despite that victory over the Kings, that win over that sweep over Jacksonville, not doing Louisiana any favors. And then finally, what in the world was that? The Tulsa Desperados. Dude, they've had like 2 or 3 games this season where they have been totally flat. You want to talk about mismatch. 343 rush yards for Houston, and they really mixed it up between Josh Slapp and GP Wells. Tulsa, 4 red zone trips, 0 touchdowns. That's almost impossible. And they had 12 yards of average better field position than Houston, and they still lost by 39. Make sense of this for me.
It's got to come. It comes down to play calling. I mean, Houston really. The whole issue with Tulsa is, for one, okay, look, I talk about how great Gabriel Manning is all the time, but whenever that's your one trick in the bag, there's only so much that you can do with it. Tulsa has other playmakers and hasn't figured out how to get them involved. Houston, really just came out on the right side of the coin flip this week, because we've seen Houston up and down as well, just as much as Tulsa. And Houston really had a good game plan going into this. And Damon, look, I think Damon, we joke. So in around the SFL, Jacob and I were joking around, and Jacob was talking about, he's like,
uh-oh. I think Mike froze. Mike. Hello. Mike may be done skis for a while. All right, we'll come. We got you? There you go. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, there I am. I'm back. Okay. Yeah, no, Jacob and I were joking around and around the SFL, and Jacob was like, man, I think Damon has aged about 20 years this season from the amount of close games that Houston's had. Look, Damon needed this win. He's a great coach, came out, put together a good game plan. Tulsa just wasn't on the right side of the coin flip this week.
We'll see what they do next week against Minnesota. Houston's got a date with Mexico City, who's playing some pretty good football themselves. Let's go to Mexico, where the Aztecs were taking on the Seattle Nemesis, and Ray Bentley looked like the Ray Bentley of old on Santa Fe Gorilla throwback night for the Aztecs. That's how the franchise started. Seattle was in there. Very breast cancer awareness uniforms, and trust me, we are aware, as Buford Van Dam is now aware of the end zone on that dirty stiff arm. 17-6. Ty Patak was all kinds of bothered in this game. Ben Charbs with the pick just before the half made it 20-13. Quickly, who won this uniform battle, Mike?
Oh man, as much as I love, the Seattle organization, you gotta give it to Mexico City and the throwback Santa Fe's. I mean, they were playing like a different team. They didn't play like Mexico City. They played a lot more like Santa Fe.
With the Matt Wilson 12 at midfield as well. That was a pretty ball. Jordan Sipe didn't have to do much on this night, but he did enough. And Buford Van Dam in the fourth quarter on a 3rd down, gotta have it, up 14 to keep momentum alive, and that's exactly what Santa Fe does. And then Jordan Sipe goes to the end zone, and oh yes, that is a beautiful rocket. 9 of 12, but a clean sheet. Jason Bartley touchdown, 34-13, and then things started really getting ugly for Ty Patak on 2nd and 10. He is dropped outside of field goal range. That had to have been like the 3rd time in this game that Mexico City had a sack in field goal range, and then on 3rd and 16, they do it again.
That was, it was just impressive. Like, Mexico City really just playing like a completely different team in this game. And look, if this is what's to come for next season for Mexico City, look out, South Division, because that South Division might get a little better.
Guys, this is not, the highlight is not on loop. This is the next drive. It's the same drive. Ty Patak is sacked again. Sack. He's just getting crushed. Ziggy Blaylock, 5 sacks on this night, and then on 4th and 20, you want to talk about damaging someone's psyche. My gosh, Ty Patak can't do anything. Ziggy Blaylock all over him, and Mexico City crushes Seattle 34-13. What in the heck was that?
That right tackle was the mismatch. That right tackle was getting blown up every single play. So whatever Mexico City did, scouting wise on the defensive line, because you put in different stunts every week based on what you see what the offensive line's doing, and Mexico City just nailed that game plan out of the park. I mean, they played phenomenal. For them to come out and play a really good team like Seattle and to do that to them, I think is a huge victory for Mexico City.
9 sacks, 9 no turnovers for Mexico City, and Seattle's average starting field position was their own 23. That's almost impossible. That is almost impossible. Mexico City with a quality win. And Mike, thanks to Jack's data, for the first time since season 8, the last place team in the SFL has at least 3 wins. First time since season 8, as we have a ton of teams at 3 and 8. The race for the number 1 draft pick, Mike, is going to be really interesting next week, as we've got 5 or 6 different teams at the bottom of the standings at 3 and 8, including Minnesota. Mike, they could either win the division or get the number 1 pick. Now you tell me how that makes sense. Which one would you rather have?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I don't know. Like Minnesota, I mean, that's got to be an indicator of a good season, right? Minnesota being able to either get the first overall draft pick
they win
or
either
win
way.
the division.
They win either way.
You win. I mean, Minnesota's really the lucky one here. I mean, look, it just indicates how close this is, and that was, I think, you and I talked in the offseason, and that was a big goal of this switch, was to narrowing the playing field and kind of making it to where a little bit more to where it wasn't so top end heavy or bottom end heavy. And we've gotten just that. The fact that I'm confident that any team, and Mexico City proved this last night, any team in the lower half can beat any team in the upper half any week. And it just comes down to who wants to put the work in.
You know who's ticked off, Mike? Indianapolis, because they possess Mexico City's first round pick. And they thought they had it in the bag, and no longer. Now it's a dogfight. All right, last highlight of the week that we want to enlighten you with was a great game between Queen City and Atlanta. Most of you may not have seen this game because both teams were out of playoff contention, but Claudius Periwinkle III with that pick, and then an overthrow there by Bryant Dynasty, and Greg Gaines slides in to make the play. All Queen City early, 10-0 in the second quarter. Now 13-0, and Atlanta gets it going with BDG Hollywood. Why wouldn't you? In the battle of the bright green, as Mark Chisholm playing his former team. 13-7, Queen City on top by 6. So 3rd down and 4 just before the half. The Corsairs are going to put together a drive. Trellis Blanton with pressure at his feet hits Doug Spelling, and Queen City gets inside scoring position, calls a timeout. They got plenty of time left. They would end up getting a score on that. 20-10, Trellis Blanton. What if I told you, Mike O'Neill, that Trellis Blanton was 3rd in the league in rushing yards among quarterbacks? Not sure anybody would have predicted it.
Wouldn't surprise me.
They got a field goal, 23-10. Kyle Fenimore. Man, if this guy doesn't make the All-Star game, he's the All-Star of this Atlanta team this season. He has been phenomenal.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Kyle Fenimore has been a diamond in the rough for Atlanta.
Down 13, Hollywood going to get the toss, and Hollywood's into the end zone, so we got a ball game here. This game was scoreless at the end of the first quarter, and we've now had 40 points in the last 2 quarters, and these teams would not be finished. Trellis Blanton up 6, next play. Whoa, Cree Higgins gets up in a game of reverse limbo. First down for Atlanta.
Who said linebackers can't jump?
Who said it? Who said it? They got a field goal out of it. 23-20, 8:45 to go in the 4th. Blanton again stepping back. Oh, man, somebody blew the coverage. Doug Spelling wide open, got crushed for it, but held on to the football. And then on first down and goal, Queen City would flip it over to Chase Matthews. First catch of the game. Goes for 6. Queen City's back up 10, but Atlanta would not be done. Dynasty, next drive. Kyle Fenimore, touchdown. 30-27, 3:40 to go in the 4th. What is a good ball game. Very underrated game this weekend.
Yeah, and look, Trellis Blanton in this game, outside of the turnover, Trellis Blanton was really putting the ball in good places. And same thing with Bryant Dynasty. I mean, really got up to a little bit of a rough start, but then really picked it up, and Atlanta they had every chance.
This was their moment. Ball on the Queen City 37-yard line. Clock winding down. They got one timeout. Dynasty throws the game away. Pass picked off by Chad Stinson. Queen City holds on from 0-12 to 4-7. Corsairs pick up another key victory on the road. All right, without further ado, it's time for your updated playoff standings. And we have a new entry into the top 8. Yes, that's Charleston. 6-5, a SOV of 439. They are your number 8 team. And what's interesting about this, Mike, is take SOV out of it for a second. Charleston beat DC. Charleston beat Louisiana. Those are two teams that they share a common schedule with, right behind them in the standings. Vegas is 9. They beat San Diego, and then Vancouver's right behind them. They also, I think they actually lost to Portland, but yeah, Vegas is in 9 right now. San Diego's sitting in 11, DC 10, Indy clinging to life in the Central, and there you see Louisiana is 6-5. That strength of victory is just not there. 333. They just have not found a way to. They lost to Canton, they lost to Baltimore, but they have Florida left next week, Mike, and that's the key. The win against Florida turns it all around, and Louisiana probably makes the playoffs with that, which would probably leave a guy like you sweating a little bit because Denver's not going to do you any favors in that category.
No, Denver's not going to do us any favors, unfortunately. But yeah, Louisiana really has an opportunity here with this. If they go in and take out Florida, that skyrockets that strength of victory. And this is a tight race, man. This is a very, very tight race. I'm going to have a talk with Jacob about taking that 8th spot from us. So not too happy about that.
With Seattle's loss, this is fascinating. The 4-5 line determines who gets a bye. Right? Top 4 teams get a bye, then they get a quarterfinal home playoff game. The 5 seed would play the 12 seed in the wild card. The 12 seed is the Central winner. Right now, that would be Baltimore taking on the Central winner, but the difference in tiebreaker goes all the way to strength of schedule, which Seattle has played the tougher schedule over Baltimore. That's why they currently have a slim, and I mean slim, lead on that 4 seed. I know that the Central team is down right now, but you'd definitely rather be 4 than 5, right, Mike?
Yeah, I would much rather. Yeah.
You don't want to play that 5-4 game on the road. You don't want to play that on the road.
No, not at all. I mean, this is too close for comfort.
If the playoffs started today, right? Let's put the wild card aside just for a second. Quarterfinal, top 8, Charleston's defense against Fort Worth. How cool would that be? Canton, Alamo City, didn't see that this season. Arizona, Florida, didn't see that this season. Baltimore, the 4-time defending champs against Seattle, the upstart team. I mean, no matter how these matchups shake out, it's going to be amazing storylines across the board.
And that's without 9 through 12, which
that's
are
without
all,
considering the wild card matchups. Exactly.
That's crazy.
Who wouldn't want a Canton DC 7-10 rematch after this past week?
Oh, man.
It's ridiculous. How about San Diego, Arizona, 11-6, a rematch from the convention week when no one knew nothing about nothing, right? Like, yeah.
This is going to be
wild.
It's going to be crazy. We're shaping up for a really, really good end of the season.
Now, there you see Vancouver in 14th, Portland in 16th. Houston is actually in 17th, but they have a less likely chance of making the playoffs than Tulsa or Minnesota does in the Central, so they are left off of the graphic, and that's where Portland would end up if they lost this game as well. Portland is eliminated tonight if they lose the ball game. They have to win. Their SOV is through the roof, 557. If they can just get to 6-6, they may be fine if they get some help. Charleston, Vegas, DC, San Diego, somebody's got to lose, and one of them is guaranteed to lose because Charleston plays DC next week. So, you know, it's still, the 6-6 is still there. It's right for the taking, but really only Portland and Baltimore have a realistic shot. Carolina, because Carolina's SOV is 491. If they beat Baltimore, that shoots up too. So it's still there for both those teams, no doubt.
Yeah, it's just we're going to have to see how Week 14. Week 14 is going to leave a lot. It's going to answer a lot of questions for us. I mean, there's a lot to watch for going into next week.
So that's a look at the playoff standings. And going back to those playoff matchups, here's your dates and times if you haven't gotten them already. Alamo City, Fort Worth, the battle for the South Division title, the battle for the number 1 overall seed and home field advantage throughout the playoffs on the line on Monday. Friday night, DC takes on Charleston, a pair of 6 and 5 teams. The winner does a lot for their playoff hopes. It won't necessarily clinch the spot, but it'll do a great deal. Seattle's at Vancouver. Even if Vancouver loses tonight, a win over Seattle would rocket their SOV up.
Yep.
And Vancouver would still have a shot at 6 and 6. So not as much on the line for Vancouver, but they'd much rather be playing Seattle from a position of strength rather than weakness. Then you've got the Central Division Saturday at 9 Eastern, all the 4 and 7s and 3 and 8s there. And then Sunday night, Louisiana on the road takes on Florida. Vegas on the road takes on Arizona. Both of those teams in desperate need of pulling an upset because they need every win they can get because they could potentially lose some 6 and 6 tiebreakers against a team like Carolina or Vancouver or the like. So
yeah,
it's going to be a wild slate. I know that you're going to be watching Monday night, but what is must-see television for you in the block?
Must-see for sure is DC and Charleston, Seattle and Vancouver. That Friday 8 p.m. and that Saturday 6:30 p.m. to me is what stands out. Obviously, I mean, DC at Charleston, to me, the way that DC played last night, right, versus how Charleston's been playing defensively, is really, really going to be good. And that whole division it's so close that you've got to see that. Also, obviously Seattle, Vancouver is going to be good, but another one I'm looking at here, Las Vegas and Arizona. Las Vegas, really on a hot streak right now. And I want to see how Las Vegas does against this. I mean, I was just talking about how Arizona won in a really, really difficult situation with Minnesota being frustrated and really, needing a win desperately, and Arizona still being able to hold on to that. But Las Vegas, I want to see how Las Vegas comes out because they've been throwing some different things at the wall week to week, and I want to see what Eddie Gage has got planned for this.
We've already beaten Arizona this season, very similar to the Carolina Baltimore rematch as well. The potential underdog in that game has a win already against their opponent. Okay, so Vancouver and Portland is coming up next. Mike St. Green is on the call with me tonight. Super excited to have him back in a guest appearance. Mike O'Neill has broken down the film between Portland and Vancouver, and let's check out what he found.
Let's talk about Vancouver here. They've scored a ton of their touchdowns off of toss plays this season, and the simple reason for that's the blocking downfield. Watch number 34, Sawyer Stern, the fullback right here. Not only do they get good blocks from their wide receiver and their tight end right here, but watch him seal the edge right there, springing Logan Lee a first down run. Portland has to be prepared for this tonight, and they've got the personnel to do it. The next play I want to highlight, we're going to look at Brody Gulch, the outside linebacker here. Look where he's lined up, and watch the explosiveness to get into the backfield once this play snaps. I mean, bang, bang, to break up this toss. If this happens tonight, this could be detrimental to Vancouver's offense. Let's talk about what Vancouver needs to win. Last time these two met up, Cam, Portland won in a high-scoring affair, 54-43. In that game, Love had just under 200 yards on the ground rushing. If Vancouver wants this time to be different, it starts by shoring up their front seven. They cannot allow Love to get to the third level, and if he does, they cannot have this happen. Watch when the play snaps here. Right there, number 27, Mark Lopez. Watch this missed tackle, Cam. Whoop! Oh, man, that is detrimental to any defense. They have to shore up this tackling if they don't want Love to run all over them tonight, if it's going to be different. Now let's talk about what Portland needs to win. They've got to key in on Chris Curtis, number 84. Watch at the bottom of your screen right here. Last time he had 136 yards on 7 catches. Curtis found his success right behind the corner and right in front of the strong safety in that zone. Look at that. Just all night long. It was money. We're going to watch it again. Here's another example. Top of your screen, Chris Curtis, number 84. Watch this. Watch the corner. Corner lays low and to the hard flat, and look at all of this space. That is just green pastures for Chris Curtis. Portland cannot afford to do this. If they come out in man cam, it could mitigate some of the damage, but with Curtis at 6'5" and Killian at 6'6", going up against their Portland's shorter corners, it's just going to be a difficult matchup. Definitely one to watch, but good luck to both teams tonight.
Thank you, Mike, for that brilliant film breakdown. And as we look at the matchup preview this evening, look, both teams have some fundamental flaws. That's why they're in the middle of the pack right now. Portland's defense, like the Alamo City game, makes us think about Portland's defense differently because they held the Artillery to 19 points and handed them their only loss. If you pull that game out, the defense is even worse. I mean, they're even with that game, dead last in yards allowed and points allowed. Their red zone defense has not been great. But look, Vancouver's been sloppy. They're last in penalty yards. They give away too much free stuff. They're 26th in points per game allowed. We expect plenty of points tonight because we got plenty of points in the first meeting. But yeah, it's. I think whoever wins this game is whoever cleans up their act in the ways they've been struggling.
I think you're exactly right. I mean, look, with Portland's defense, just going back to what I saw on film, I mean, Portland's defense, I mean, they've been the Oprah of the SFL, right? They're giving away everything. But look, they've got to, it all comes down to this. Portland is a team that runs a ton of zone blitz schemes, right? Like they're constantly sending extra defenders, which is great, right? But that's a very high risk, high reward style of thinking. They've been on the short side of that, unfortunately, this season. But they need to figure out how to hit home and create pressure with just their defensive line if they're going to slow down these receivers. Because, look, I said in that matchup preview, Chris Curtis had a huge game this last time. If they put all their eggs into that basket, well, guess who's on the other side? Brett Killian, right? And that matchup's not good either. So at the end of the day, Portland just really needs to kind of trust their defense, sit back, and they really need to trust their defensive line to hit home without needing the defensive back's help and taking them out of position. So that's going to be the key for Portland. And Vancouver, they got to have balance.
Both of these teams at times during the season have been kind of one-trick pony, right, Mike? Portland is very hyper-aggressive defensively, high risk, high reward. Vancouver, very much an outside running team, kind of overly predictable that they're, that may be something that they're going to do. Can either one of these teams pivot? Can they find something else to sprinkle in here tonight? And that could be the difference in the game. So that's going to be exciting. Your final thoughts on Week 13, Mike, as we get ready for Monday night.
I think it was a perfect setup for a Week 14 that we just all can't wait to see. I think Week 13 really kind of was a good stepping stone into what Week 14 should be. Yep, there you go.
Yeah. A little small plate like a Cheesecake Factory. Now Week 14's the true appetizer round. We were like, that's totally a meal. And then the playoffs really start to hit home. All right, that's it for Mike O'Neill. I'm Cameron Irvine, and Mike St. Green will be along for the call. Join us, Vancouver, Portland, on the Monday Night Spectacular Week 13 edition coming right up.